Hey guys, tonight we journey gently along the banks of the Nile. As the first hints of sunlight softly caress the fertile riverbanks, you breathe deeply, inhaling cool morning air, fragrant with lotus blossoms and damp earth. There's a chance you'll miss this story, as your eyelids start their inevitable descent. But that's alright. Ancient bees won't mind, trust me. They've been buzzing softly for thousands of years, never rushing, always calm. So before you start to feel relaxed and drift off to sleep, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel so inclined, let me know where you're watching from, along with the local time, just so I can imagine you in your cozy corner of the world. Take a moment to lower the lights, perhaps let a gentle fan whisper in the background, and slowly sink into tonight's calm together. You're standing on the banks of the Nile now, sandals gently sinking into the soft mud, as the morning sunlight ripples across water as smooth as glass. A fisherman silently paddles his reed boat nearby, casting nets with practiced ease, unbothered by your curious presence. Your eyes drift slowly toward the lush riverbank, where papyrus reeds sway gently in the breeze. Among them, almost hidden by the dense greenery, are carefully arranged clay structures shaped like elongated domes, quiet and peaceful in the cool shade. These aren't pottery ovens or storage jars. These peculiar domes are ancient Egyptian beehives made entirely from clay. It might seem odd at first imagining bees buzzing around clay sculptures instead of wooden boxes, but Egyptians were quietly innovative when it came to their sweet companions. While today's wooden hives might seem more practical, the clay hives you're observing now perfectly suited Egypt's hot climate. Their thick walls provided insulation, keeping the bees cool during scorching afternoons, and gently warm through chilly desert nights. Nearby, an Egyptian beekeeper moves softly among the hives, almost dancing with slow, deliberate movements. Wrapped in linen with a calm expression on his sun-weathered face, he whispers quietly, perhaps prayers, or perhaps instructions to the bees, as he gently lifts a clay lid to peer inside. Egyptians firmly believed bees responded kindly to gentle whispers, an idea that you might quietly chuckle about now. And yet, modern beekeepers still talk gently to their bees, proving some rituals never fully fade. As you lean closer, careful not to disturb his work, you notice the beekeeper gently wafting a little smoke from a small bundle of burning herbs, calming the bees just enough to make his job simpler. The bees seem surprisingly cooperative, quietly going about their tasks with a relaxed hum, seemingly content to ignore both you and their careful caretaker. Nearby, an assistant beekeeper kneels by a stack of freshly made clay hives, arranging them carefully under tall date palms. Each hive is slightly different, unique, lovingly crafted by hand. You spot playful carvings etched into the clay surfaces, small bees flying around symbols. Historians still scratch their heads about. Was it decorative, protective, or perhaps gently humorous? Scholars still debate it quietly, careful not to disturb the soothing mystery. Around you, life along the Nile unfolds at a leisurely pace. A heron glides lazily overhead, dipping low toward the water, gently skimming the surface before continuing its slow flight. Children quietly giggle and splash in shallow pools along the riverbank, their laughter softened by distance. A woman gently pulls lotus flowers from the river, setting them in a woven basket with careful reverence. You realize the ancient Egyptians lived their lives in rhythm with nature, never hurried, always gently respectful of the creatures and plants around them. Turning your attention back to the bees, you see them softly humming in and out of their clay homes, flying lazily toward vibrant gardens and lush wildflowers. Ancient Egyptians like you loved the sweetness and tranquility that bees brought to their world. They were a gentle presence, quietly improving lives with their hard work, without ever making much fuss about it. It's easy to imagine spending countless mornings just like this one, listening quietly to bees buzzing softly as the golden sun climbs slowly into the sky. You might drift into wondering how Egyptians discovered this peaceful coexistence with bees. Perhaps someone noticed a swarm gently settling inside a cracked clay pot one hot afternoon and realized it was a quietly ingenious idea. Whatever sparked that first inspiration, Egyptians wholeheartedly embraced their clay beekeeping methods, quietly perfecting it over generations. You find yourself gently smiling, grateful these ancient people took the time to create such a wonderfully sleepy scene for future dreamers like yourself. The bees, still humming gently nearby, seem utterly unconcerned with your presence. They have pollen to gather, nectar to sip, and honey to make tasks too important to rush or fret over. They move at their own steady, peaceful pace, a quiet lesson in patience you might gently carry with you into your own busy modern life. As you slowly step back, quietly leaving the beekeeper and his bees to their gentle morning chores, you realize there's still so much left to discover about why these bees were such an essential, comforting presence in Egyptian life. But don't worry about missing out, there's plenty of time to explore it later, provided you haven't gently drifted off to sleep already. And who could blame you? With a scene this gently soothing eyelids growing heavy seems perfectly reasonable. As your quiet journey continues, you stroll gently away from the riverbank, guided now by the slow hum of Egyptian life around you. Soon you're stepping lightly along sun-warmed pathways, winding lazily between mud brick houses and shaded palm groves. Even though the morning grows warmer, everything around you maintains its gentle, leisurely pace. There's no rush here, only the rhythmic sounds of sandals, softly crunching sand, and the distant laughter of children now softened by the shade. Ahead, the faint aroma of incense and sweet honey draws you nearer to the tall, serene columns of a modest temple. Not one of the grand monuments you might picture when thinking of ancient Egypt, no towering statues or imposing stone walls. Just a peaceful place of worship where villagers quietly gather. Approaching slowly, you notice the quiet hum of gentle conversation drifting from inside. Stepping gently into the cool interior, you find priests moving quietly, preparing offerings at a relaxed pace. On simple tables, clay jars hold honey so pure and golden, it almost glows softly in the dim morning light. You see honeycomb laid out reverently alongside other gifts like fresh dates, figs, and delicate bread. It's clear these offerings aren't just casually placed here. They carry deep meaning, especially the honey. Honey wasn't merely a sweet treat in Egypt, it was deeply sacred. Priests gently believed that honey had magical, even divine properties. After all, honey never spoiled. Archaeologists today still marvel at finding pots of perfectly edible honey hidden quietly away for thousands of years in forgotten tombs. You might smile softly, realizing that ancient Egyptians found their first taste of immortality, not through elaborate rituals or alchemy, but quietly stored in clay jars. A younger priest, noticing your curious gaze, approaches gently, holding out a small spoonful of honey. "Taste," he whispers softly, and as you carefully sample the sweet liquid, you notice hints of wildflowers and something faintly herbal, a flavor profile that modern food critics would gently applaud. Even ancient Egyptians appreciated subtlety. The priest quietly explains that honey, seen as a divine substance, was offered to gods such as Ra, the sun deity, who might appreciate a touch of sweetness after a long day of pulling the sun across the sky. Honey also quietly honored fertility goddesses like Hathor, gently linking the sweetness of honey to the nurturing warmth of life. With its golden color reflecting sunlight itself, honey became symbolic of purity, prosperity, and renewal. Listening gently to these quiet tales, you might wonder how ancient Egyptians felt about bees themselves. These humble insects tirelessly collected nectar from blooming gardens, softly transforming it into something almost magical. Egyptians respected bees, profoundly believing they held divine wisdom from their close relationship to the earth. They watched bees quietly and intently, learning lessons in teamwork, patience, and gentle dedication, lessons you too could absorb from simply observing their steady, calm buzzing. This reverence even seeped into mythology. The priest quietly recounts tales of bees born from the joyful tears of Ra himself, suggesting even gods felt gently emotional from time to time. Another softly amusing myth tells of bees as messengers between worlds, gently humming secrets between gods and mortals. These stories, whispered across generations, remind you of how bees, despite their modest size, held a gently powerful role in the Egyptian imagination. Still, not all honey ended up on sacred temple tables. Pharaoh's rulers, known for their lavish lifestyles, quietly insisted on having honey within easy reach. You imagine palace cooks gently drizzling honey onto figs, folding it softly into pastries, or mixing it into fine wines. Honey sweetened not just desserts, but daily life, gently infusing royal feasts with its calming charm. But perhaps most intriguingly, you notice a small jar labeled carefully with hieroglyphics, indicating medicinal purposes. Egyptians didn't simply enjoy honey's taste, they quietly discovered its curative properties. They gently applied honey to wounds, soothing pain and preventing infections. Even today, doctors nod approvingly at these ancient medical practices, softly impressed by their surprising accuracy. Of course, priests guarded the production and purity of honey, closely, softly ensuring that temple honey remained strictly ceremonial. Some historical sources suggest priests quietly murmured blessings over each batch, gently invoking protection and prosperity. Scholars still debate whether these whispered blessings actually enhanced the honey or merely reassured the priests themselves. Either way, it's softly amusing to imagine them meticulously murmuring magical phrases into golden jars. Back in the temple, you observe villagers arriving quietly, each respectfully placing their offerings near jars of honey. They whisper prayers gently asking gods for good harvests, healthy families, and restful sleep, perhaps even for fewer mosquito bites. It's a gentle, quiet ceremony punctuated only by whispered conversations and the soft clink of pottery. The warmth and kindness you sense here amid simple acts of gratitude resonate deeply, making you wonder if perhaps ancient Egypt's true treasures weren't found in pyramids or temples, but rather in moments like this. As you quietly prepare to leave, you take one final glance at the shimmering golden jars. Honey truly was a sweet bridge between the gods and the common people, a gentle golden thread woven softly into the fabric of Egyptian daily life. Its quiet presence in temples, palaces, and humble homes alike underscored a simple truth. Egyptians seemed to understand, intuitively, sweetness was sacred. Slowly stepping back outside into the brightening day, you carry this gentle revelation with you. Ahead lies more to discover about the clay hives, the curious artisans who crafted them, and the bees who filled them with this sacred sweetness. But for now, savor this quiet realization, gently sweetening your dreams with honeyed thoughts. Stepping gently from the temple's cool interior, you let your eyes adjust slowly back to the sunny world outside. The village is now fully awake, but still peaceful. As if its residents quietly agreed, mornings should always be approached gently. You walk along winding pathways, passing homes where open doorways reveal glimpses of quiet domestic life. A woman weaving, children playing with clay toys, and elders dozing softly in shaded courtyards. Following the dusty paths, you soon find yourself at the humble workshop of a local artisan. You pause near the entrance, hesitating slightly, but the craftsman inside catches your eye, smiles warmly, and waves you gently in, clearly accustomed to curious visitors. As you step into the shade of his workshop, you notice immediately the pleasant coolness provided by thick mud brick walls. Pottery shards, half-finished vessels, and lumps of clay are arranged neatly around you, revealing quiet chaos only artists truly understand. In the gentle filtered light, the artisan kneels carefully shaping a large clay dome, a new home for bees. His movements are slow, rhythmic, meditative. As he smooths and shapes the clay with practiced hands, you observe quietly, marveling at how effortlessly the wet clay responds to his gentle touch. Each hive is formed patiently, layer by delicate layer, as if rushing would somehow disturb the bees that have yet to move in. As he works, the artisan softly hums a quiet melody, a soothing tune you've never heard, but somehow feels familiar. Perhaps bees prefer music while house hunting. Historians haven't completely dismissed the idea, but you might gently suspect the artisan just enjoys singing while he works. As you watch more closely, your eyes drift toward completed hives arranged carefully along one wall. Each one has subtle differences, an extra swirl here, a slightly flattened dome there, as if the artisan gently refuses to repeat himself. You chuckle softly, imagining picky bees inspecting his designs, carefully buzzing their approval. But what truly draws your curiosity are the whimsical carvings etched delicately into each hive's surface. Bees hover near spirals, flowers, and curious abstract symbols. Some carvings resemble hieroglyphs, while others seem simply decorative. The artisan notices your intrigued stare and softly explains that these carvings have deeper meanings. At least that's the popular theory. Historians, of course, continue to debate this quietly. Were they protective charms, practical designs for cooling, or gentle jokes to amuse fellow villagers? The artist's amused shrug suggests perhaps a bit of each. You lean closer, smiling at the carved bees swirling playfully around symbols, reminiscent of honey jars. Another carving features bees gathered calmly near a human figure, perhaps a beekeeper whispering gentle instructions or prayers. Your favorite, though, is a whimsical scene depicting a bee flying above what appears to be a small cat, a scenario you can't help but softly laugh at, imagining ancient Egyptian bees gently tormenting indifferent temple felines. Between carvings, small holes punctuate each dome's surface, meticulously placed to provide airflow. Ancient Egyptians understood clearly that bees, just like people, appreciated fresh air. Inside these clay homes, the temperature remained surprisingly stable. The artisan explains quietly with a gentle chuckle that clay is nature's perfect air conditioner, keeping bees comfortably cool during scorching days, yet cozily warm during chilly desert nights. As the artisan returns to his work, your attention drifts to another curiosity. Small clay lids shaped perfectly to fit atop each hive, removable for honey harvesting. Each lid is adorned with simple handles, gently shaped to accommodate careful fingers. You quietly wonder how many hours this skilled craftsman dedicates to crafting these lids, each one seemingly simple, yet quietly thoughtful in design. After watching him a bit longer, you notice a younger apprentice working quietly beside him, silently forming smaller clay vessels. The older artisan gently guides him patiently, correcting mistakes without ever raising his voice. They exchange whispered conversations, occasionally punctuated by gentle laughter, likely discussing their work or perhaps softly debating the day's lunch menu. Curious, you ask softly about how artisans learned their craft. The elder smiles warmly, explaining patiently that skills pass gently from father to son or master to apprentice, ensuring the quiet continuation of ancient techniques. These artisans maintain secrets and traditions passed down through generations, softly guarding them as precious treasures. A gentle breeze rustles palm leaves outside, sending flickering shadows across the workshop walls. You relax into this quiet moment, gently imagining the generations of artisans who've crafted these hives before. Each new generation subtly improved on old methods, perfecting designs without ever dramatically altering them. After all, if something gently worked for hundreds of years, why hurry to change it? Before you leave the cozy workshop, the artisan quietly offers you a chance to shape your own tiny clay bee. He gently hands you a small lump of soft clay, chuckling warmly as you awkwardly attempt the task. Under his amused but encouraging gaze, you manage to form something resembling a bee, though historians might debate its accuracy. Still, it's quietly satisfying, reminding you how ancient Egyptians found joy, even in simple, gentle tasks like this. Eventually, you set down your imperfect bee, thanking the artisan softly as he returns calmly to his delicate work. Stepping back outside into the sunlight, you realize these quietly charming clay hives weren't simply functional, they carried deeper meanings. Each gentle carving and carefully placed air hole whispered secrets about Egyptian life, their playful humor, patient craftsmanship, and enduring respect for the bees whose hard work sweetened daily existence. As you move forward again, quietly savoring the peaceful sights and sounds around you, you carry this newfound appreciation. The clay hives with their whimsical symbols and gentle designs stand as quiet monuments to an ancient truth. Beauty and purpose can exist peacefully side by side, softly humming together in harmony. And now, softly smiling, you're ready to learn how bees quietly nurtured not just honey jars, but gardens and farms. Along the sleepy Nile, one gentle buzz at a time. As you gently wander farther from the artisan's workshop, the village slowly gives way to lush gardens and quiet farms stretching lazily along the fertile banks of the Nile. Here fields of barley wave softly beneath the golden sunlight, and tall date palms sway gently overhead, whispering secrets to passing breezes. Flowers bloom quietly everywhere, wild hibiscus, delicate lotuses, and fragrant jasmine, each blossom patiently waiting for its daily visit from the bees. You step lightly along narrow paths, winding through these peaceful gardens, enjoying the soothing hum of insects around you. Butterflies float dreamily past your shoulder, and the faintly sweet scent of nectar fills the warm air. This gentle world feels timeless, a place ancient Egyptians walk slowly through each day, quietly appreciating nature's patient rhythms. It's easy to see why bees held such a revered place here. Ancient Egyptians quickly recognized their quiet importance, noticing how gardens and farms thrived wherever bees softly buzzed. Without ever rushing, bees gently carried pollen from flower to flower, quietly ensuring blossoms became fruit and grains ripened into abundant harvests. Egyptians might not have called this process pollination, but they deeply understood its gentle power. Pausing beside a shaded vineyard, you watch quietly as bees dart leisurely among grape blossoms, their delicate movements ensuring grapes will soon sweeten beneath the sun's gentle warmth. Nearby, a farmer moves slowly among rows of beans, checking carefully for pests, and quietly humming to himself a simple tune blending effortlessly with the bees' soft drone. Historians quietly confirm that bees significantly increased agricultural yields along the Nile. In fact, ancient Egyptian farmers gently placed their clay hives right beside their fields, understanding instinctively that bees were quiet partners in farming success. These gentle insects transformed humble gardens into vibrant landscapes overflowing softly with fruits, vegetables, and fragrant herbs. You might gently smile, imagining ancient Egyptians watching bees with quiet admiration, perhaps marveling at their industrious yet calm dedication. Some historians still debate just how clearly Egyptians understood the science of pollination. Did they merely notice that fields near hives produced better harvests, or did they quietly grasp deeper connections? The answer remains gently elusive, though perhaps it hardly matters. Ancient farmers undoubtedly saw bees as tiny, dependable allies. As you stroll farther along the gardens, transition into carefully tended orchards, their branches laden softly with ripe figs and pomegranates. Bees quietly flit among blossoms, lazily completing their daily tasks. Egyptians cherished fruit orchards, gently cultivating them for food shade and even beauty. Pomegranates, especially beloved, symbolized abundance and renewal, quietly echoing themes also found in honey itself. It's easy to softly imagine bees enjoying their quiet work here, perhaps feeling appreciated in their own subtle way. Passing through a small gate woven gently from reeds, you find yourself in a fragrant herb garden, carefully arranged into neat rows of thyme, coriander, mint, and lavender. Here bees seem especially calm, quietly sipping nectar from small purple flowers. Egyptians valued herbs not just for flavoring meals, but for medicinal and religious purposes. Bees unknowingly ensured herbs flourished quietly, enhancing Egyptian daily life. A gardener nearby moves gently through the herb rows, softly plucking weeds and whispering encouragingly to his plants. You notice he's gathered herbs into small bundles, perhaps destined for temple offerings, medicinal poultices, or a comforting pot of tea. The gardener smiles warmly when he sees you, quietly offering you a small sprig of lavender. Its soothing scent fills your senses immediately, a gentle reminder of how bees indirectly contributed to everyday comfort. Your journey through the gentle farmland eventually leads you to fields of barley and wheat, rippling softly in the warm breeze. Farmers quietly work among these crops, their steady movements blending harmoniously with nature's gentle pace. You realize that without bees, these fields wouldn't be nearly so abundant. Even though grains primarily rely on wind pollination, bees still enhance their fertility by gently visiting surrounding wildflowers, increasing biodiversity, and quietly strengthening entire ecosystems. But agriculture wasn't solely practical. Egyptians quietly appreciated gardens simply for their beauty. Palaces, temples, and wealthy homes featured lush gardens, filled softly with flowering plants chosen specifically to attract bees. These peaceful sanctuaries invited quiet contemplation, relaxation, and gentle enjoyment, reminding you again how deeply Egyptians valued tranquility and harmony with nature. One fascinating fact softly emerges as you gently explore further. Some gardens featured shallow clay bowls, filled with water scattered thoughtfully among blossoms. Egyptians understood that bees, like people, gently appreciate a refreshing drink on hot afternoons. It's quietly amusing to picture bees pausing mid-flight to sip water, perhaps softly humming thanks in return. The thoughtful consideration Egyptians showed bees underscores their mutual relationship, quietly built on respect and care. Eventually, you pause beneath the shade of a tall sycamore, gazing gently back across the lush landscape you've slowly explored. Here, surrounded quietly by nature's abundance, the humble bee's subtle power is unmistakably clear. Without fuss or noise, bees softly wove together entire ecosystems, quietly supporting gardens, orchards, herbs, and grains. Egyptians intuitively understood bees' gentle significance, incorporating them respectfully into every aspect of their lives. As you rest quietly in the soft shade, eyelids growing pleasantly heavy, you carry forward this comforting image: bees humming gently through blossoms, farmers working peacefully, and Egyptians quietly appreciating nature's intricate, subtle gifts. Perhaps bees' greatest lesson lies not just in pollination, but in their gentle reminder to slow down quietly, notice beauty around you, and appreciate the small things. You might even softly wonder if bees secretly enjoy their work, quietly buzzing among flowers, content simply knowing their patient efforts sweeten the world around them. It's a comforting thought, gently easing you deeper into relaxation. As you prepare to continue your quiet journey, remember these gardens, lush, serene, softly buzzing with gentle bees. This peaceful scene remains timelessly soothing, a quiet invitation to let your thoughts drift easily, gently into sleep. You rise slowly from your restful spot beneath the sycamore, brushing a few stray petals from your linen wrap. The air carries a deeper warmth now, but still nothing oppressive. A soft heat that makes you want to move even slower, take even deeper breaths. A bee hovers near your shoulder for a moment before floating lazily away, unbothered. You're beginning to understand their pace, their quiet insistence on doing things calmly, methodically, one gentle wing beat at a time. Ahead lies a familiar column of soft clay domes, the beehives warm to the touch under the mid-morning sun, yet cool and comforting inside. Today, though, you're not merely admiring their artistry. You're watching a beekeeper at work, his movements slower than ever. This is a moment of quiet strategy, the honey harvest. And while that might sound like an intense or even chaotic endeavor, In a world filled with modern buzzing hives and protective gear here in ancient Egypt, it's a ceremony of smoke stillness and softly whispered routines. The beekeeper begins by preparing a small fire of dried herbs and date palm fibers, igniting it with a simple flint spark. From the moment the smoke begins to rise in delicate swirls, the bees respond almost immediately. Not in panic or disorder, but in calm retreat, gently moving deeper into the hive, as if respecting the beekeeper's silent request for a moment of access. This practice of using smoke to pacify bees wasn't unique to Egypt, but the herbs used here create a scent unlike any you've known. It's subtle and sweet, with undertones of dried figs and crushed myrrh. You inhale it without meaning to, and feel your own shoulders drop in response. The smoke isn't just for bees, apparently. It's for anyone who needs to slow down. The beekeeper removes the clay lid with practiced care, revealing the golden treasure inside. Rows of honeycomb glisten in the filtered light, each cell a perfect hexagon, each drop of honey the result of 1,000 tiny wing beats. You marvel at the patience required to gather such sweetness drop by drop from fields and gardens and wildflowers. It's the sort of work only someone very small, very focused, and very relaxed could manage. Bees in short. With a small copper blade, the beekeeper gently scrapes the comb from the inside wall, careful not to disturb the hive's integrity. Some honey will be taken today, yes, but only some. The rest is left for the bees. Ancient Egyptians understood balance, and beekeepers knew better than to overharvest. Bees that felt robbed were said to abandon their hives, vanishing into the landscape. Whether that's true or not, the lesson is clear: respect the bee, and the bee stays. The freshly harvested comb is placed into wide ceramic bowls lined with fine linen. The honey will slowly strain through the cloth, leaving behind wax and residue. Nothing is wasted. The wax, still warm and soft, will be set aside for candle-making, balm blending, or even sealing scrolls. The beekeeper's assistant carefully carries the honey-filled bowls toward the shaded storage room, walking slowly so nothing spills. Even the honey seems to prefer moving at a slower pace. As you observe the process, a faintly humorous detail catches your eye. The beekeeper wears a strange necklace strung with tiny clay charms, bees' flowers, even miniature hives. It's equal parts superstition and style. According to some elders, such charms keep the bees calm. Scholars still debate whether they served a symbolic or practical purpose. Perhaps it's both. Perhaps the bees enjoy a bit of flair. You learn too that some beekeepers whispered short phrases to their bees before beginning the harvest. Not commands or prayers exactly, more like gentle greetings. Good morning, golden ones, or forgive me, little sisters. Whether bees respond to politeness is admittedly still up for debate, but it doesn't hurt to be nice, right? Nearby, a curious child watches the harvest, whispering a million questions to her patient grandmother. You catch one in particular. How do the bees know how to make it so sweet? The grandmother chuckles softly and replies, they collect the sweetness from every flower they visit, just like we collect stories. It's a lovely thought and oddly fitting. Each drop of honey is a story told in pollen and nectar, in wing beats and sunlight. And here you are watching its final chapter before the honey becomes temple offering, soothing balm, or dessert topping. Eventually, the smoke dissipates and the bees begin to return to the hive, softly investigating the changes. There's no panic, no uprising, just a quiet resumption of work. The beekeeper gently replaces the lid, murmurs a final phrase, and wipes his hands clean on his linen tunic. The ritual is complete. He turns to you and smiles, not smugly, not boastfully, but with the calm satisfaction of someone who knows he's participated in something ancient and ongoing. Bees and humans working together quietly and without complaint. As you prepare to leave, a tiny bee lands momentarily on your hand. You hold still breath, quiet heart, gentle. After a moment, it lifts off again, joining the lazy spiral of others in the warm Egyptian air. It feels like a little blessing, or maybe just a coincidence. But in a world this old, this sacred, even small things carry soft meaning. With honey harvested, the next phase of your journey awaits medicine ritual and the curiously sticky world of ancient Egyptian cures. But for now, you let the sweet scent of herb smoke and fresh honey linger around you like a gentle breeze that refuses to rush. You follow the soft trail of honey-scented air away from the hives and toward a small mud brick building nestled quietly at the edge of the village. The walls are sun-baked and weather-worn, but a reed mat draped over the entrance flutters slightly, welcoming you with a sleepy kind of charm. This, you're told, is where honey becomes medicine, where ancient remedies are mixed and mumbled over in gentle rhythmic tones by a healer who smells faintly of beeswax and fennel. Inside, the air is thick with the earthy sweetness of dried herbs, oils, and honey fermenting quietly in clay jars. Shelves groan under the weight of linen-wrapped bundles, mysterious powders, and small bowls filled with soft golden goo that glows like morning sunlight. The healer, an older woman with laugh lines as deep as the Nile, greets you with a nod and a soft hum. She's busy grinding something ginger, perhaps, into a thick paste that she'll soon blend with honey. She doesn't rush, and neither should you. As you settle onto a low stool, you start to learn just how far the Egyptians' love for honey extended. It wasn't just food. It was a cornerstone of ancient medicine, a sticky golden cure, all believed to treat everything from sore throats to battlefield wounds. The Egyptians were firm believers in its healing power, and honestly, they might have been onto something. Modern science agrees honey really does have antibacterial properties. It's nature's own antibiotic packed by tiny striped pharmacists working overtime. One mainstream ancient recipe calls for honey to be mixed with ground lotus petals and applied to burns. Another uses it as a soothing salve for eye infections, though you'll be forgiven if you flinch a little at that one. Honey in the eye isn't exactly on your modern bucket list. Still, for ancient Egyptians, it was a standard part of the medicinal toolkit, and apparently not as terrifying as it sounds. And then there's the cough syrup. 1 part honey, 1 part crushed, dates a dash of cumin, and a lot of patience. Served warm, it soothed throats, settled nerves, and according to one fragmentary papyrus could calm even the most irritating speaker. Whether that was a medical condition or diplomatic critique is still up for gentle scholarly debate. But not all uses were entirely serious. A more fringe recipe calls for honey to be mixed with crocodile dung and applied to, well, we'll say feminine regions, and leave it at that. The exact purpose is still debated, but theories range from contraception to mosquito repellent. Either way, it's a gentle reminder that even the most brilliant civilizations had their more questionable moments. You might quietly chuckle at the image of a high priestess walking through a temple, cool as can be all, while trusting in the power of dung and honey. More reasonably, honey was used in embalming rituals, not just as an offering, but occasionally, depending on the source, as part of the preservation process itself. Some scholars argue that honey helps seal wounds or stave off decay, while others gently scoff, suggesting it was simply placed near the deceased to sweeten the afterlife. Either way, honey was present either in the tomb on the tongue or folded gently into ritual objects. The healer taps your arm softly and points to a scroll. Its hieroglyphs faded, but still legible to trained eyes. It's a page from the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts we've ever uncovered. And wouldn't you know it, honey's mentioned dozens of times. Mixed with herbs with milk, with powdered stones and tree bark. Egyptians didn't just experiment with honey, they revered it as a foundation of wellness. Nearby, a young apprentice giggles as he tries to shape a honey lozenge for a patient. The sticky mass clings stubbornly to his fingers, stretching like golden taffy. His teacher, clearly used to this, hands him a bowl of water, chuckling softly. "You must be gentle," she says in a whispery voice, "or the honey will decide you're the medicine." Even animals received the sticky treatment. Farmers rubbed honey on animal wounds, while temple caretakers gave diluted honey to sacred cats and birds. Imagine that, a falcon sipping honey water in the courtyard of horses' temple feathers, ruffling contentedly. It's not just healing, it's hospitality. You begin to notice something else too. The atmosphere here is almost reverent. Healing was a spiritual act in ancient Egypt. There were no white lab coats or sterile gloves, just quiet rooms, murmured prayers, and the gentle belief that nature, guided correctly, could fix what ailed you. Honey wasn't just a substance, it was a collaborator, a co-conspirator in the pursuit of balance and wellness. One wall is covered in symbolic bees drawn in fine ink, tiny wings, outstretched, little legs tucked. Some are arranged into a constellation, others flying in a spiral. The healer smiles as she notices your gaze. The bee, she says, gently brings sweetness to both life and death. You nod slowly, letting the words settle. They make a quiet sort of sense here. Before you leave, she offers you a spoonful of warm honey mixed with thyme and fig, a simple remedy meant to settle the stomach and relax the mind. The taste is complex and grounding. Earthy, floral, sweet. A perfect metaphor for ancient Egyptian medicine, sometimes mysterious, occasionally messy, but always made with care. Outside, the late afternoon sun casts long shadows, and the bees hum softly as they drift between blooming herbs. You carry the flavor of honey with you, still its gentle warmth lingering on your tongue like a memory. And now, with medicine tasted and mysteries unearthed, you'll follow the bees a little further into the world of kings and queen symbols and hieroglyphs, where the humble honeybee ruled not just in gardens and hives, but in hearts and crowns alike. You walk slowly now, letting the quiet knowledge of honey as medicine settle like warm balm on your thoughts. But as the sun dips lower in the sky, casting long golden stripes across the earth, your path leads you toward something more symbolic, toward the delicate thread that ties bees not just to plants and people, but to power. You approach a low stone structure near the palace grounds, its weathered facade etched with symbols. You've begun to recognize lotus flowers, falcons, and bees. Always bees. Their wings raised in motion, their bodies tiny, yet prominently displayed near the names of rulers and gods. These weren't just insects to the Egyptians, they were emblems of something far greater. You trace a carved bee gently with your fingertips, feeling the indentations made by a chisel thousands of years ago. It's placed directly beside the hieroglyph for King of Upper and Lower Egypt, a small creature honored beside a mighty title. Curious, isn't it? The bee in ancient Egypt was more than a bug that made breakfast sweeter. It was a political symbol, a sign of unity and order. The title, He of the Sedge and the Bee, referred to the pharaoh's rule over Upper and Lower Egypt's sedge, for the South Bee for the North. Historians still gently debate why the bee represented northern Egypt. Was it simply due to honey production, a local tradition, a divine sign? No one's quite sure. But the bee made it into the royal lexicon, and that's no small feat. Inside the stone chamber, you find remnants of ceremonial ware, fragments of linen gold leaf, and ornamental pins shaped like tiny bees. Royalty wore bees not just as decoration, but as declarations. They were sewn into collars, inscribed on bracelets, and even engraved into golden sandals. Imagine a pharaoh stepping into the day, with bees literally beneath their feet. Subtle, powerful, and maybe a little cheeky. Queens, too, adopted bee symbolism. One of the most elegant examples lies with Queen Amos Nefertari, whose titles included She Who Unites the Two Lands. Bees appear beside her name in several temple inscriptions, suggesting that she too embodied harmony. Not bad for a creature most modern people shoo away at picnics. As you step back into the warm light, a breeze catches your wrap and carries with it the distant hum of bees still working, still watching. You realize the bees weren't just symbols of rulership, they were models for it. Think about it, a bee colony runs with quiet precision. Everyone has a role. There is order, communication, productivity. Even the queen bee, more nurturer than tyrant, represents gentle guidance rather than dominance. You begin to wonder if ancient Egyptians looked at their bees and thought, now that's how a civilization should run. A tidy kingdom of nectar, loyalty, and purpose. The association between royalty and bees also extended into spiritual symbolism. Bees were thought to carry messages between the divine and mortal worlds, their soft buzzing considered a sacred hum, a quiet thread to the gods. Some funerary texts describe bees as escorts of the soul, guiding it gently into the afterlife. And considering how calm and focused bees appear, you can understand the appeal of such an image, death as a soft flight rather than a frightening fall. In the next chamber, you spot a mural faded by time but still vivid in outline. A pharaoh stands beneath a golden sun, arms raised in prayer, while bees spiral upward like smoke toward the heavens. It's not a scene of conquest or war, it's a moment of stillness, reverence, and connection. The kind of image that reminds you just how important symbolism was to the Egyptian mindset. Scholars gently debate how much of this symbolism was understood by everyday Egyptians. Was it just the priests and scribes who grasped the bee's deeper meaning? Or did farmers and fishers look at hives and see power mirrored in miniature? We can't know for sure. But the prevalence of bees across every social level, from carvings in temples to graffiti in village walls, suggests a widespread, quiet admiration. You sit for a moment on a low stone step, letting all of this settle in. Around you, the world begins to cool. The buzz of insects grows softer, deeper. Somewhere nearby, a young scribe practices his hieroglyphs, scratching lines into clay bird-eye bee water. He sighs softly. You smile. Even thousands of years ago, homework was apparently a sleepy affair. From royalty to worker bees offered a model of dignity. Not flashy, not boastful, just quietly excellent. They didn't seek recognition, but they earned it anyway, one tiny flight at a time. Before leaving, you glance one last time at the carved bee by the royal title. Its wings are outstretched as if frozen mid-flight, its antennae delicately raised. You wonder whether the artisan who carved it thought about bees the same way you now do, not just as insects, but as tiny winged emblems of peace, purpose, and quiet power. And as you walk back into the soft evening light, you carry this new understanding with you. The bee wasn't simply a buzzing neighbor or a source of honey. It was a symbol, a sacred link, a queenly companion. Next, you'll trail the footsteps of those gentle apiaries themselves, the ones who lived outside the palace walls, quietly tending bees from sunrise to sundown. Their lives weren't filled with titles or temples, but their routines were every bit as reverent, and just maybe a little more soothing. The palace slowly fades behind you as you walk once more toward the quieter edges of the village, where the hum of bees grows steadier again, blending seamlessly with the chirping of birds and the rustle of wind through papyrus reeds. This is where the real magic happens, not in golden halls or hieroglyph-covered tombs, but in the daily dust-speckled world of the apiarist. You find him, your apiarist, crouched beside a long row of clay hives, his linen tunic stained from years of quiet work, his skin deeply tanned from the same gentle sun that warms your back now. He doesn't look up immediately. He's focused on something small, adjusting a hive lid with the precision of someone who knows even a few extra seconds of exposure could disturb the delicate peace inside. Eventually, he notices you and smiles faintly, gesturing for you to sit beneath a nearby fig tree. You do, legs folding beneath you as you let the quiet settle in around you. There's something deeply comforting about this space, its pace, its patience, its predictable rhythm. Bees float in and out of the hives, their soft movements orchestrated like a sleepy ballet. And in the middle of it all, the beekeeper moves with the same gentle grace. His day begins before sunrise, he explains in a low voice, barely louder than the wind. First a silent walk among the hives, no tools, no smoke, just presence, listening, observing. The bees, he says, will tell you how they feel if you take the time to notice. Whether the hive is too warm, too crowded, or simply restless. He speaks of them not as possessions, but as companions, the kind you don't command, you court. You watch as he prepares a small mixture of herbs, thyme, chamomile, crushed papyrus leaf. This isn't to harvest honey or ward off pests. It's a gift. A light sprinkle near the hive entrance, a token of goodwill. He says it calms them. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian apiarists truly believed in bee diplomacy, or if this was simply habit passed down like a lullaby. Either way, it works. There's a rhythm to everything he does. The way he brushes pollen from his sleeve, the way he whispers to the bees as if offering soft commentary on the morning weather. You begin to notice he speaks in phrases, not words. Hello, my golden ones. Thank you for your work. The flowers are blooming early, aren't they? He's not expecting answers, of course, but something about the routine feels sacred. Modern beekeepers might raise eyebrows at this kind of talk, but even today, many still speak softly around their hives. Some play music, some hum, and others swear their bees recognize them. It's not science exactly, it's something older, gentler, and perhaps a little truer. He shows you his tools, a short knife with a curved bronze blade for cutting combs, a narrow brush made from woven palm fibers to gently guide bees away from his hands, a pouch filled with dried herbs to produce just the right amount of smoke. Nothing excessive, nothing abrupt. Every object is worn smooth by years of gentle use. As he lifts the lid from one hive, you peek inside and catch sight of the shimmering honeycomb, each cell meticulously filled. The bees move around it calmly, seemingly unfazed by your presence. You notice he doesn't wear any protection, no veil, no gloves, just trust. He moves slowly, breath steady, as if he's underwater or in a dream. And maybe he is. This work feels like dreaming a waking ritual of patience, intuition, and quiet repetition. He replaces the lid, gently pressing it down with both hands, and then sits beside you in the shade. There's no rush to move on, no urgency to produce. The bees will work when they're ready. He simply ensures the conditions are right. You ask how he came to this trade. He shrugs, smiling slightly. His father did it, his father's father, and maybe even farther back than that. So far the names are forgotten, but the movements remain. You don't choose bees, he says. They find you. He tells you of strange things he's seen, bees forming perfect circles before storms, bees refusing to enter a hive after a burial in the village, bees clustering around the same flower every year on the same date. Are they real? Maybe. Are they exaggerations passed down with the smoke and the honey? Probably, but you enjoy them all the same. At one point, a child arrives, a curious little boy who's been watching from behind a tree. The apiarist gestures him forward, handing him the brush. The boy hesitates, then slowly strokes it across the hive's opening. No stings, no panic. Just a soft hum of acknowledgement. You can almost feel the pride blooming in his chest. This isn't just work. It's a quiet inheritance. Scholars often debate whether apiarists were considered respected professionals or humble laborers. The truth, like honey, is somewhere in between. They weren't royalty, but they weren't invisible either. They were vital and trusted. The temple needed honey. The doctors needed wax. The village needed pollinators. And all of that depended on these quiet men and possibly women, though records are sparse, who moved among bees like wind through barley. As the sun begins its slow descent, the apiarist offers you a small bowl of freshly strained honey. It's still warm from the day's heat, flecked with bits of wax and pollen. You taste it slowly. It's unlike anything you've ever tried, floral, earthy, faintly citrusy. 1,000 blossoms in a single mouthful, a flavor built by wings and silence. Before you leave, the apiarist gifts you a tiny carved bee made of clay. He says it's for luck, but you suspect it's also a quiet reminder. Sweetness doesn't come from rushing, and calm can be cultivated one small task at a time. You rise and walk away slowly, the carved bee in your palm, the taste of honey on your lips, and the soft buzz of devotion echoing behind you. Ahead lies the marketplace, the next stage of the bee's journey. But for now, you carry this quiet rhythm with you, tucked gently into your thoughts. The gentle hum of the hives fades behind you, replaced now by the soft murmur of distant conversation and the rhythmic creak of woven baskets shifting under weight. You're heading into the heart of the ancient Egyptian village marketplace, where honey, once whispered over by bees and beekeepers alike, enters the next chapter of its journey, quiet commerce. The marketplace isn't a place of shouting or frantic trade. Not here, not now. It's more of a communal exhale where neighbors exchange goods and greetings in equal measure. Linen-draped stalls shade their wares beneath the simple reed canopies. The scent of coriander baking bread and warm earth wafts lazily through the air, occasionally joined by a trail of sandalwood smoke from a nearby incense vendor. You drift past baskets of barley figs piled like little suns and woven fans catching the afternoon breeze. But your eyes and nose are drawn to a humble table, nestled between a spice merchant and a woman selling dyed cloth. Atop the table sit several clay jars sealed with beeswax, each carefully marked with small painted symbols. A curled rope of reed fiber rests on top of the largest jar, forming a handle. This is it. Honey for sale. The vendor, an older woman with laugh lines and a sun-wrinkled brow, smiles without saying a word, simply gesturing to the jars. You lean closer and gently lift the lid of one. Inside, the honey gleams amber gold, thick and still slightly warm from the sun. A wooden tasting stick rests beside the jar, and after her approving nod, you dip it in and bring a dollop to your lips. This batch tastes different from the beekeepers. Lighter, more floral. You quietly wonder where these bees have been flying, perhaps near lotus ponds or fields of wild anise. Each jar here tells its own quiet story, shaped by which flowers the bees visited and when. Honey isn't just a product. It's a time capsule. The woman leans in and whispers the origin of each jar. This one from hives near the river reeds, that one from date palms near the southern grove, another from temple gardens near the god Thoth sanctuary. She sells them not just by flavor, but by aura. Some for energy, some for calm. One she calls Dream Honey, a nighttime blend infused with poppy and chamomile. You raise an eyebrow at that one. She grins and shrugs. No refunds if you dream of crocodiles, she jokes. You chuckle quietly and ask her how honey is typically bought. She explains that villagers trade in a mix of goods, barley cloth, or sometimes pottery. A trader might offer 2 baskets of wheat for a small jar. Another might barter fish or even a carved wooden comb. Money isn't the focus here, usefulness is. Honey is not a luxury item in this market. It's essential. Valued not just for sweetness, but for healing, preservation, and ceremony. You spot a scribe nearby, carefully inspecting a sealed jar. He opens a small scroll and dips his pen into a thin strip of honey, using it to seal the papyrus edge. Beeswax and honey together made excellent adhesives. And yes, sometimes they tasted their own glue. You might imagine bored scribes chewing the edge of their scrolls, thinking about dinner. Beyond him, 2 temple attendants gently load jars into baskets bound for the sanctuary's kitchens and altars. You overhear one say that certain gods prefer honey fresh, others aged in darkness. Whether it's theology or superstition is unclear, but scholars today still argue whether honey offerings varied based on the deity, the moon phase, or the mood of the high priest. In another corner of the market, you find a wax vendor selling pale yellow discs, still slightly sticky, and smelling faintly of wildflowers. This wax, harvested from leftover comb, will become candles, amulets, and sealing plugs. One woman purchases a lump and plans to soften it into a balm for her husband's sore joints. Another buys hers to coat the rim of a jar filled with pickled onions. Bees continue to contribute long after the honey is gone. You pause beside a quiet potter's stall where someone's trying to replicate the perfect honey jar. The lid doesn't quite fit, and the potter frowns gently. You hear him mutter, "Too narrow." The bees won't like it. You raise your eyebrows slightly. He's making jars for humans, not bees. But the sentiment is sweet if slightly misplaced. A group of children chases each other between stalls, one pretending to be a bee arms, flapping tongue, buzzing. The others laugh, but one trips and scrapes her knee. Her mother arrives calm and barefoot pulls a small jar from her basket and dabs honey gently on the wound. The child stops crying almost instantly. Whether it's the sweet distraction or the healing property is anyone's guess, but either way, the remedy is working. As the sun begins to dip lower, the marketplace eases into a hush. Shadows lengthen. Stalls are packed, slowly, not hurried. Traders chat with each other about their plans for dinner or the next full moon. You notice bees still hovering faintly near the honey jars drawn by instinct memory, or some tiny whisper of their former work. Before you leave, the vendor offers you a small taste of dream honey. You nod, and she spoons a tiny drop onto your palm. You lick it thoughtfully. It's sweet, yes, but with something softer, deeper, the kind of sweetness that settles behind your eyes and makes your shoulders heavy. You thank her, purchase a tiny wax amulet in the shape of a bee, and make your way out of the marketplace, your steps slower now. Ahead lies the soft edge of nightfall, and with it the mythic world of protective bee spirits, dreams, and gentle superstitions. But here in the calm of commerce, you've seen something quietly profound, how even the humblest jar of honey can pass through dozens of hands and still carry the scent of the hive. Sweetness travels, softness endures. As twilight settles over the village and the last echoes of the marketplace fade into the hush of evening, your steps lead you toward the shadowy edges of belief, where daily life slips quietly into the soft glow of mythology. The sun has sunk low, casting long lavender hues across the horizon, and the air now carries a cool stillness. Bees have returned to their hives tucked safely behind clay walls, and humans are beginning their own rituals of rest. But not all rest is without guardianship. In ancient Egypt, even sleep had its watchmen, and surprisingly often, those watchmen buzzed. You enter a small courtyard near a modest shrine, less grand than the temples, but intimate, filled with faint incense smoke, and tiny altars nestled beside pots of herbs. A priestess greets you with a gentle nod. She's tending to a bowl of offerings flowers, bits of honeycomb, and small wax figurines shaped like bees. She invites you to sit, her voice barely above a whisper. Tonight, she says, we honor the spirits who keep the sweetness safe. And just like that, the world of myth unfolds softly around you. Ancient Egyptians believed that bees were not merely insects, but sacred messengers. Some myths held that bees were born from the tears of Ra, the sun god. When his tears touched the earth, they transformed into golden bees, flying out into the world to bring order, pollinate beauty, and whisper divine will. It's a poetic idea, sorrow turned to sweetness. Other tales describe bees as keepers of secrets, flying between the realms of the living and the dead, delivering messages too quiet for human ears. In tomb paintings and temple reliefs, bees often hover near sacred texts or follow gods across the afterlife. You begin to understand why bees had their place in funerary rituals, not just for honey, but for guidance. A soul surrounded by bees was never alone. The priestess tells you of protective bee spirits, gentle, vigilant, never sleeping. They guarded sacred spaces, flitting through walls and shadows to detect curses, bad luck, or angry spirits. If a home kept bees, it wasn't just for wax or honey, it was for safety. Some Egyptians believed that angry bees could chase off demons. Not a swarm, mind you. Just a few buzzes in the right direction. Enough to discourage anything lurking in the dark corners of a chamber. You smile softly at this idea of spiritual security guards with wings the size of lentils. Some families would place wax bee figurines near cradles to protect infants during the dangerous early days of life. Others would light small beeswax candles during childbirth, believing the warm glow and faint scent kept the gods attentive. Historians still debate whether these practices were widespread or localized traditions, but either way they reveal a society that never took sleep, birth, or death for granted, and never doubted the bee's quiet presence in all of it. You are shown a small charm, a worn stone bead carved into the likeness of a bee, its wings spread wide. To keep dreams sweet, the priestess says. These amulets were often worn or placed beneath pillows. You picture someone tucking their charm under a linen headrest, whispering a prayer not to be disturbed by angry ancestors or unsettling dreams. Or worse, the surprisingly common fear in Egypt of being visited by the dead. Even the afterlife, it seems, needed pest control. Bee-related dreams were often interpreted by temple dream readers. A dream of bees flying around your head, a sign of divine favor. Bees building a hive in your mouth, a prophecy waiting to be spoken. Bees crawling into your ear, best not to overthink that one though. One scribe's tablet suggests it means your words will carry honey. A kind interpretation, considering the visual. The priestess points to a mural on the far wall, barely lit by the flickering lamp. It shows a god surrounded by bees. He isn't named, but his outstretched hands are open to the swarm. She tells you no one agrees on who the figure is. Some say it's Osiris, others. Thoth, still others. Claim it's a lost local deity known only in whispers. The one who hears the wings, they call him. A god who listens in the silence between buzzes. You close your eyes for a moment, and in the quiet, you do hear it, the faint memory of bees in the gardens, the smoke rising from the hives, the calm voices of beekeepers. The sound isn't real, of course, not here, not now, but it lingers soft and warm in the folds of your imagination. Before you leave, the priestess presses a small piece of honeycomb into your palm. To bring peace tonight, she says, and to remember that not all protectors roar. Outside, the stars have appeared scattered lazily across the velvet sky. You begin your walk back through the sleeping village, each home casting soft candlelight through woven windows. Bees are silent now, tucked away in their clay homes, but you can't help imagining them still watching gentle guardians with golden hearts. As you pass one final shrine at the village edge, you notice another bee carving half-worn by wind and time. You reach out and touch it. It's cool beneath your fingers, silent, but not forgotten. And as your thoughts turn toward the comfort of wax candles and softly lit chambers, you know there's more to see. The next chapter of your journey lies not in the fields or the shrines, but in the glowing flicker of beeswax candles, lighting stories long after the sun has disappeared. The village now lies cloaked in darkness, not the ominous kind, but a warm velvety dusk, softened by the flicker of quiet light. As you walk slowly along the narrow dirt path toward a family home, your eyes are drawn to small glows behind linen curtains and reed shutters. These aren't oil lamps or torches. There's something gentler, a quieter light, the kind shaped by bees. Inside a modest home, mud brick walls, low ceilings, and the faint scent of cardamom and clay, you're welcomed by a family preparing for the night. Children giggle softly as they help their grandmother place small candles around the main room. These candles are no ordinary household item. They're molded carefully from beeswax, each one poured into hand-carved molds and cooled under palm leaves. One is shaped like a lotus, another like a little bull, but most are simple slender sticks with soft wicks and golden hues that still hold the faint scent of wildflowers. As the grandmother lights each one, the flames glow with a warmth that feels less like fire and more like memory. Beeswax burns longer, steadier, and cleaner than animal fat or oil. Ancient Egyptians knew this. That's why wax was prized not just in homes, but in temples, libraries, and tombs. You settle on a cushion near a low table, quietly watching the flames sway in rhythm with the nighttime breeze. A soft bowl of honey water sits nearby, steaming gently, its purpose twofold: a soothing drink before sleep and an offering to the spirits of the house. The candlelight dances on the walls, casting shadows that look suspiciously like bees in flight. Or maybe your imagination is drifting again. Either way, the effect is comforting. The grandfather seated beside the fire pit begins to mend a small scroll container with warm wax. It's a simple task, but performed with the same patient reverence you've seen all day. A small beeswax seal is pressed onto the container's lid, a symbol of closure, protection, and care. Wax, after all, wasn't just for light. It sealed letters, preserved food, waterproofed boats, and soothed sore muscles. Its uses were endless, and every bit of it came from those tireless little wings. In the quiet of the room, the grandmother leans in and tells a story in hushed tones. It's a tale of a wax candle that burned all night in a desert temple, never dimming, never flickering. As long as the high priest stayed faithful, the bees blessed it, she whispers. Because they listened. Whether this was a common legend or a family tale is unclear. Scholars might argue about the source, but here tonight, it doesn't matter. The story glows like the flame itself, soft, flickering, real enough. One of the children shows you their favorite candle, a stubby thing molded into the shape of a frog. It smells faintly of lavender. The child claims it protects against nightmares. You raise an eyebrow playfully, and they nod with such conviction that you don't dare disagree. Instead, you ask if the frog ever speaks. They consider this. Only if the dream is bad, they whisper. But it mostly just hums. You're offered a candle to take with you, a simple one, just wax and wick. But something about it feels meaningful. The wax is slightly uneven, shaped by hand rather than tool. It carries fingerprints, imperfections, and perhaps a thumb smudge of honey still clinging to the base. This candle was made not in haste, but with care. Like everything the bees gave it exists because someone took the time to receive it. As the night deepens, you're guided to a small temple chamber where monks once copied sacred texts. It's empty now, save for a single candle flickering on a stone shelf. You run your fingers along the wall, brushing hieroglyphs that describe the gods of wisdom, light, and protection. The flame doesn't sputter. It hums, a soft, steady reminder that beeswax candles once lit the very words of history. Historians note that many of these early manuscripts, papyrus scrolls detailing astronomy, medicine, law, were written, read, and preserved by beeswax's gentle light. No smoke to cloud the air, no foul smell, just golden glow, quiet enlightenment. There's even a quiet debate in some scholarly corners about whether beeswax candles were used in ceremonies to signal truth. The idea being, if a candle burned evenly and calmly, the gods were satisfied with your honesty. If it flickered violently, well, maybe your heart wasn't quite so light. Superstition, possibly. But even now, you notice how you speak a little softer in candlelight, how your thoughts feel rounder, gentler, more true. You stay in the chamber longer than planned. The flickering reflection on the stone floor hypnotizes you, the warmth brushing your cheeks like a whisper. There's no need to speak, no reason to move. The bees did their work long ago. All that's left now is to enjoy the light they left behind. Eventually, you return to the family home where the candles have burned lower their golden pools of melted wax, catching the last glimmers of glow. The room feels fuller somehow, not in noise, but in presence. You understand now that candles weren't just illumination. They were timekeepers, anchors, small flames that help people pace their evenings, structure their rituals, and measure their rest. As you lie down near the open window, your little candle on a low shelf beside you, you watch its flame dance against the wall. It hums not in sound, but in presence. Like the bees themselves, it asks for nothing. It simply is. And in its soft, steady glow, you drift deeper into stillness. Next, you'll walk the winding path to where time erodes even the most carefully crafted hives, where archaeologists unearth brittle remnants of clay and beeswax, and where the legacy of these gentle creatures still flickers softly through time. Dawn breaks slowly over the desert, its soft golden light stretching across the sand like a silk ribbon unspooling after sleep. You walk now through quieter land, no humming bees, no bustling markets, no temple chants, just the wind whispering across dunes and the occasional cry of a distant heron. The world feels hushed, reverent, as if holding its breath for something long, forgotten to be remembered again. Ahead, partially buried in sand and time, lie the fragile remains of a once busy apiary. Not a modern excavation site marked by loud tools and high fences, but a gentle sun-dusted space where clay fragments peek from the soil like fossils of sweetness. You kneel carefully, brushing warm grains from a familiar curved part of a hive, long cracked but unmistakably shaped by hand. Archaeologists, too, have knelt here on this same patch of earth, under this same rising sun. They've uncovered dozens of hives, some still sealed with traces of wax, others blackened by ancient fires or quietly collapsed by centuries of wind and weather. Each fragment is a whisper from the past, a reminder that bees once lived here, worked here, danced their soft waggle dances through narrow openings, never imagining that their clay homes would one day be rediscovered by gloved hands and careful brushes. You sit quietly, letting the silence fill you. It's strange this space feels less like a ruin and more like a memory, a place not abandoned but gently faded. Nearby, you spot the edge of a painted sherd still bearing the imprint of a bee. Its wings are stylized but instantly recognizable, 2 curved strokes, a tiny oval body, and beneath it, a zigzag line. Perhaps the symbol of honey or the vibrations of flight. Historians still debate the precise meanings of such markings. Some suggest they denoted hive ownership, others that they invoked blessings, and some argue they were simply decorative because even 3,000 years ago, people found bees charming. These subtle disagreements never really end. Was honey used in mummification widely, or only in rare cases? Were clay hives unique to Egypt or adapted from Mesopotamian designs? Did temple priests breed bees specifically for ceremonial honey? Or did they just accept whatever bees brought them? The scholarly debates buzz on gently but incessantly like bees circling a flower long after the nectar is gone. And yet the facts that remain are soothing in their simplicity. The hives were here. The bees lived. The people cared. Walking through the site, you find flat platforms where hives once stood in tidy rows, aligned to catch the morning sun but avoid the worst of the afternoon heat. The precision of the layout suggests knowledge trial and error across generations. No instruction manual, just experience passed from palm to palm, preserved in rhythm and repetition. A few broken jars nearby still hold traces of their contents. Tests have found tiny residues of honey pollen and even ancient beeswax. Under microscopes, scientists have discovered the remains of long-dead flowers, lotus clover, tamarisk, ghosts of gardens that once fed the hives. It's comforting to know that sweetness can survive millennia, even if only in trace form. One of the more peculiar finds here noted by researchers was a tiny set of carved bee figurines, arranged in a circle around what might have been a ceremonial bowl, a ritual, a teaching tool, a child's game, no one knows. But you imagine the scene anyway. Someone kneeling here centuries ago, carefully placing each figure with purpose, whispering words now long lost to time. Nearby remnants of a scribe's tablet contain partial instructions. When the bee flies low, prepare the smoke. If the comb falls, do not harvest. Practical wisdom etched in clay, surviving long after the hands that wrote it return to dust. There's something humbling about that. Advice meant for daily chores now read by distant descendants, marveling at how precise and gentle these instructions remain. A breeze picks up, stirring a little dust around your ankles. You close your eyes and can almost hear it again, that steady hum. The clatter of pottery, the whisper of a beekeeper, the low murmur of trade at the honey stall. The world of bees was never loud, but it was always there. And even here in a ruin, it lingers. In recent years, modern Egyptian beekeepers have returned to clay hives in some rural areas not out of nostalgia but practicality. They've found that ancient designs often keep hives cooler, more stable, and less prone to disease than modern wooden boxes. You smile quietly at this full-circle ancient wisdom, returning not with a shout, but a gentle buzz. Before you leave the site, you reach down and pick up a small piece of clay, worn smooth by time, no longer part of any structure. It crumbles slightly in your handlight as ash. You let it fall, watching the grains scatter and vanish into the soil. But even as it disappears, the shape of the hive remains in your memory, round, warm, welcoming. As you walk away, the wind carries a trace of sweetness, or maybe that's just your imagination. Either way, the bees have stayed with you. And now, with hives behind you, stories spinning gently in your mind, and your thoughts drifting like pollen on a lazy breeze, it's time to settle in. Let the soft weight of history rest around your shoulders like a linen shawl. Let the golden traces of honey and wax and wing beats glow faintly behind your closed eyes. Let the ancient clay crumble gently into dream. Now, as your breath grows slower and your body softer, imagine yourself once more beneath that tall sycamore by the Nile. The sky is dimming. Bees have returned to their hives. Candles flicker in distant windows. The world is winding down, not ending, just resting. You feel the warm earth beneath your palms, the scent of wildflowers floating gently through the evening air. The faint taste of honey still lingers on your tongue, subtle golden, just sweet enough to remember. Around you, the memories of the day move like shadows, carved hives, whispered prayers, stories folded into wax and sealed with care. There are no questions now, no need for answers. The hives you saw still stand somewhere, even if only in pieces. The bees are still working somewhere, even if you can't hear them. And the people, those quiet apiarists, those patient artisans, are still present in every spoonful of honey that drips slowly into warm bread. Let the hum of wings become your lullaby. Let the candlelight of ancient homes gently flicker behind your thoughts. Let yourself float slowly into the wide, soft river of sleep. You're safe here. The bees are watching. The hives are warm. The night is gentle. Good night, sweet dreams.